This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agnew.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Ben Albert, a guy who's founded a bunch of different stuff. He's the CEO and founder of Balbert Marketing, maybe my favorite name of any company for any guest, and Real Business Connections. Ben, hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm excited, man. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for the next Super Bowl, Eagles, Broncos. I don't know if it's going to happen, but
Maybe if you guys draft a quarterback. We won't bore people who don't like football, though. Even though I am very obviously decked out today, the people who can't see me, who listen to the podcast, I'm decked out in Eagles gear because it is home opener for the Eagles today. So, Ben,
let's go.
You're in New York. You said your dad's from, I think, Colorado. I mean, tell me, when you were growing up, where did you grow up exactly? And did that kind of have any impact on you being an entrepreneur later in life?
Yeah, born and raised in Rochester, New York. Don't necessarily think that impacted me being an entrepreneur. Never saw myself as an entrepreneur. Never had a Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or any of those people on the wall growing up. Really, truly went a more traditional route. Always had side hustles. I mean, if you're a high school student that sells weed, I mean, it's legal now, so I can say it, right? If you're a high school student that sells weed, are you an entrepreneur? I don't know, but I went a typical route, went to school, went the corporate route at the start of my career, and was kind of an accidental entrepreneur. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's a good question, but I kind of think it just kind of happened on its own.
For the record, I don't think it's legal for kids to sell weed still yet, but I love that analogy. I think that's
Fair.
a great one. What was the first real business you started?
Yeah, so real, like legitimate would be Balbert Marketing that I started in the pandemic. To give you a little bit of kind of background is I was obsessed with music. I mean, first 13 some years of my life, I was actually super shy, super reclusive, wanted to be a basketball player, lived to be 5'8", so you can only imagine I didn't grow up to be a basketball player. And since I was kind of the shy kid and a creative kid and kind of a weirdo, I found alignment in the music scene. And it was right around that high school time that I started to find peers that were like-minded. We would go to the shows, and I didn't know what marketing was, but that's what I was doing. I was handing out flyers. I was setting up MySpace pages. I was selling merch. I was advocating for a good thing. So once I got into more of a career in sales and marketing, on the side, I was a music booker and promoter. So I wasn't making much money doing this, maybe a few thousand a year, but I was getting into places for free, which was the best part. And kind of on the side had a music podcast, had a music blog, and was doing the marketing thing for myself well before 2020 when the pandemic hit, got let go as a sales executive, started from scratch, and reinvented myself from Music Ben, who was a party animal, to Business Ben, who wanted to make something better for himself and the world around him. So the first official business was 2020 mid-pandemic, but 2016 is when I launched my initial music blog. So that side hustle was able to transform into something that became a business.
Okay. Wow. There was a lot there.
Apologize.
No, it's great. I feel like we could do a few episodes together and just dig into all the stuff you just said.
Happy to.
So how did you make that switch? Like, you're doing the sales executive thing, you get let go, and instead of going and finding another 9-to-5 or sales job, you said, I'm going to do my own thing. And it's a scary thing. I mean, I think after you've been in it for a while, you realize it's not a scary thing, but at the time it's very scary. You're like, holy shit, like, how am I going to do this as a, adult and support myself and my family, whatever else you're doing? What was that thought process? Like, where did you go to learn how to do that? Or did you just have it in you? What was the process there?
I don't have a perfect answer. I will say any action is better than no action at all. And the first step, after I basically felt sorry for myself for quite some time and was going in a bad route, I mean, I we don't have to talk about COVID, but me, like many people, everything was just stripped from me. So a lot of confusion, a lot of not sure what to do next. And I actually got on LinkedIn and revamped my profile and rewrote my cover letter. And it was basically, in short, it was, we can't control the pandemic, but we can control what we get out of it. Am I going to stare at the wall waiting for the paint to dry? Or am I going to go out there and work with good mentors, teams, this and that? And I kind of wrote this aspiration statement that I was using for my cover letter because I honestly didn't know what my next move was. No fault to any of the companies, but no one was hiring. I probably applied for, 5, 10 serious jobs, and whether it was a salary or they weren't hiring, like nothing was landing for me. And then it was late August that I kind of had that light bulb moment that I'm still on the laptop I started with right in front of me here. I have a laptop. I have marketing skills. I have a background in guerrilla marketing in the music industry. So I know how to go out and ultimately, the more hands you shake, the more money you make. I know how to go out and reach out to people. We're in a really unique situation where it's a pandemic and everybody's at home, and I understand podcasting. So I said, let's see what happens. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I started a business podcast. It was called Rochester Business Connections. It's now called Real Business Connections. I've since kind of rebranded and made it more of an international show, but it was Rochester, New York, Rochester Business Connections. Started Balbert Marketing because my name's Ben Albert, and it's the first thing that came to mind. The first piece of feedback is my buddy says, no one calls you Balbert, man. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm reinventing myself. So Balbert Marketing, Rochester Business Connections, and I started just having conversations. I was smart enough to realize that my target client was a business owner, and I understood web design, SEO, social media marketing, Google, all the basics. So ultimately, I started this podcast to highlight Rochester, New York business owners. I wasn't going to call up Elon Musk and earn his business, but if I can't earn any momentum or support or mentorship or peers in my hometown, who am I and what am I doing starting a business? So my niche wasn't specific to an industry or specific to a kind of person. It was specific to my location, Rochester, New York business owners. And that was able to build a foundation that turned into a podcast rebrand and a company that can serve people nationally. No international clients, but we'll see where it goes, man. But really, it was really just putting my chips on my hometown and learning from people that were way smarter than me. I'll shut up after this one last point. Not only were they business owners, they were possible clients. So they were teaching me how to run a business, and I was a good marketer, so I was good at promoting them. So it wasn't out of the question that they become a client or refer clients to me. So I kind of knew what I was doing. I think the way I'm explaining it now makes it way more clear than it was at the time. But if I were to start again, I would be very narrow-minded with exactly what I did, and I'd do it even better next time.
I mean, it's really genius, and
I've never been called a genius before.
I didn't say you were a genius. I said that was. No, I'm kidding. I said that was genius. No, it's. I think you get a lot of people who would think, why would I start with Rochester, New York? There's not that many people here. There's not that big of a place. There's limited amount of like money that I can get from here. What is that going to do for me? And I tell people all the time, like, there is a hometown discount. I don't care what anybody tells you. There's a hometown discount. People will let you in the door because you're from where they're from, just because you're from where they're from. Not for any other reason, because you're handsome or because whatever. It's because you're from Philadelphia or from Rochester or from Denver or wherever. It makes a lot of sense. So I think that's a great idea for anybody. We always said the friends and family plan is something that we hear when people start a business, right? They reach out to their friends, they reach out to their family, reach out to their network, but like kind of at the same time and in parallel, like building that business in a location as your vertical is I think, a great idea. And I think people shy away from it because they think that they're not going big enough. And it's like, well, how could you go big if you can't even start small? So I think it's a
Right.
really great approach.
Can I add one thing to that, Jay?
Yes, please do.
There's a hometown discount. There's also a new to town discount.
Sure. Yep.
I'm adamant that I could do this better in any city in the world, because all you have to do is say, hey, Jay, I'm new to Philly. I'll be honest with you. Like, I don't know anybody, but I want to see the streets. I want to see the town, maybe grab a beer. And because I'm new to Philly, I'm starting an X about Philadelphia, a business blog about Philadelphia, a photo series about Philadelphia, a report about Philadelphia, a social media, just an X about Philadelphia. Would you like to be a part of it? And people are like, they're new. They want to see the city. They want to grab a beer with me at my favorite spot. Hell yeah. And then you actually have benefit. It's the new to town discount.
Right. No, I like that.
As long as you can connect based on proximity or a mutual interest, you'll be able to get someone's attention. But if you're just someone out of the blue reaching out to them for no reason, there's no proximity or mutual interest, you're not going to get their attention. So what does your target have in common with you, and connect on that regard?
Love that. And what could you envision? And I deal with this with my own business, but could you envision a scaled out business where you have different people doing that in different locations that are you, right? Because there's only one you. So you're not going to move to Denver and to California and to Oregon and to all these places. Is that something you think you could replicate by, training other people in those locations to kind of sell that way?
Easily. It's coming at some point. 2 years ago, I bought like 20 domain names. Austin Business Connections, Los Angeles Business Connections. I don't think I own Philadelphia Business Connections, but I own Denver Business Connections, because I had that dream. I'm like, I'm going to document what I did locally and show other people. The best person to do it is someone in college, out of college, or going through a shift where they want to launch and do something new. Start a local podcast to incept yourself into the local business world, meet the people that you can learn from, and gain clients. So I want to do that. It's a good problem to have. I just haven't had the time to build the program, but that will happen. And if anybody's listening to this and wants some feedback, we'll just jump on a discovery call and I'll show you how to do it. But thank you for asking, because it's kind of been on the back burner. I want to do exactly what you just said.
Well, I may have to go buy Philadelphia Business Connections after this and sell it to you for 10 times what you would have bought it for. So I think that's a great, I think the same thing with like LinkedIn marketing, right? I guess it's not LinkedIn marketing, but LinkedIn sales. I get a lot of, business from people in Philadelphia, and people are very easy to connect with in the city if you're from the city. I even had a guy tell me, and I was giving him, I usually don't do it. I don't do a direct sales pitch from a connection request, because that's a really good way just to get, like a 0.05% connection request acceptance rate. But, like a follow-up, maybe a couple weeks later or whatever, he's like, dude, stop messaging me. I would block you and report you if you weren't from Philadelphia. And now,
Wow.
that on the surface is like, well, maybe that guy's a dick, or like maybe, but it really taught me, like, even in rejection, the fact that I'm in the same general location, this guy gave me the benefit of the doubt and didn't, block me, ban me, whatever he was going to do. So there's definitely, I love that, starting local kind of approach. All right. So you started a bunch of different stuff. I think you sound like you were ahead of the curve on the podcasting too. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, podcasts really, there's been a couple surges, I think. And I think we're in the middle of another one right now where people
Huge
are like
one.
going back and going like, oh, this is another really great way to market. And, Podmatch, fantastic service that, like, people are starting to realize, oh, I can be on 50 different people's feeds and get connection, get in front of all their connections. And like, that's just like a kind of another resurgence in podcasting. When did you start your first podcast? Like, what year was that?
It was October 2016.
Okay.
I was way ahead of the curve in podcasting then. Now, there's a time and place for everything. I was a party animal music guy. If I had started a business podcast, a self-growth business show in 2016, I probably would be way farther along. There's a lot of shows that started back then that are huge now, but there's a time and place for everything. And started in 2016. The recent show I launched in November of 2020. And nowadays, man, I don't know if it has anything to do with me or if it's the people just I hang out with. Everybody I know starting a podcast, man. There's a huge surge. And even with that surge, it's the best form of long form content you could create for your audience it isn't that difficult. Writing a book is very difficult. If you want to create long form value for your audience, there's no better way to do it than a podcast. And it's still like a tenth of a fraction the size of a YouTube. So I think there's a huge space for it, but I definitely see a second wave where everybody's starting a show, which is a good thing, right?
No, I think it's great. I do. I think it's awesome. I mean, I've had mine for about a year.
Cool, man.
And my friend told me a couple of years ago I should start one. And I was like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I should never start a podcast. And like, now I love it. And it took me a while, even after I was recording a bunch of episodes, to understand what it meant for my business, right? Because I don't do podcasting. I don't do business growth stuff. I run a software quality assurance firm, right? So but at the same time, a lot of people don't want to hear about software quality assurance. It's boring, right? I mean, there's like, it's not an exciting, sexy kind of thing. So like, how many episodes or shows you're going to do talking about the same thing over and over again? So I had to be a little creative, and I had to sort of figure out, well, I have this kind of established podcast. How do I use that to target a little bit better? So how do you use your podcast to target, potential clients? And you mentioned the way you did it with your Rochester show. How do you do that today? Is it any different? Have you changed? Have you modified the way that you go after, you find your people that you want to have on your show, and then your approach after the show's over about getting them to be a client of yours?
Yeah, so I give myself a hard time about this because the better strategy, like tens of thousands of business leaders just in Rochester, New York, the better strategy, maybe not tens of thousands, there's a lot of people though. The better strategy would be to continue local, to be the guy for marketing, production, the everything locally, build local groups. That would have been a better strategy for quick income. I actually noticed when I rebranded and started bringing on people from everywhere in the world, especially a big name speaker that comes on a lot of podcasts, they don't become a client, reasonably so. It was the local people that never had been on a show that appreciated me promoting them I built really good friendships with a lot of these people. Some are clients, some are friends, peers, referral partners, both ways. So the better income strategy possibly is just to stay local. But when I look at long-term impact and long-term capacity, and just, we'll go to the second part later, but long-term impact and capacity, I want to reach as many people as possible. And then the second thing is I get to learn from people I only imagined I'd be in the room with. 5 years back, I was listening to their show. I was reading their books. I was watching their YouTube. And I was not implementing much. I wasn't just in corporate. I was just kind of infotainment. I was a consumer, not a producer. Now I get to have one-to-one conversations with these people that charge $50,000 for keynotes, people that charge $2,000 for an hour. I get to sit down and learn from them. Does it make as much revenue as the local show did? Kind of not. But I'm investing in the education because I know that if I build a long-term sustainable foundation and a good brand, the revenue is going to come. And it might not be 2 years, it might not be 4 years. But if I continue doing exactly what I'm doing for another 5 to 10 years, like, you cannot fail. There's no way that I won't kick ass if I continue this trajectory. So I know it's a very nuanced answer, but sticking to the hyper niche was actually better for revenue. But then changing the brand was better for my personal growth and better for the long-term vision that I'm looking to accomplish. Does that make sense?
Makes so much sense. I was just thinking I need to be the QA guy for Philly. I
There you
think
go.
that should be and that's a big enough city where, there's lots of, and like you said, it's easy to think that your town is not. Now, look, if you're like in the middle of like Montana or something, like being the guy in your like, 1,000 person town maybe isn't the best, short term, midterm strategy. But if you're in a metro area or even an area that's like reasonably populated, you're dead on, man. It's a great point. Like being the guy somewhere kind of opens the door for the next one and the next one and the next one. So it is an interesting dynamic. I love the personal education you're getting from the bigger guys, but I think you're dead on. Some of our best and longest clients are local, and they're the ones that you can use to get more local clients. And then it just kind of just springboards off each other because they go, oh, you're working with that guy? Really? He's the best. Like we work with ArcWeb in Philadelphia, which is like a staple technology company. And when I tell people that was one of our first companies, I had to buy a suit to go pitch at his company. Like they're like, wow, that's a great story. Like it's all, Chris, like it's amazing. And so like, I think you're dead on, dude. And entrenching yourself in that local scene. And like you said, making groups, doing events, it's all great strategies, man. I love this. I think you're going to
I
be
add something, man?
killing it. Please just keep
how
adding stuff.
I love conversations because your thoughts help me expand and grow kind of together here. And it's like, let's say you're the guy in Philly. You don't think people in Pittsburgh know about you? Do people in Erie know about you? Do people in Atlantic City or the Jersey area know about you? You might be the Philly guy, but if you have enough of a brand there, it's still going to warm you up to other brands that aren't in your specific metro area. Now, someone in Cali might not care, but someone in Cali might see your grind and still respect the heck out of it. But yeah, man, it's better to be the best at something smaller than being, a minnow in an ocean of sameness. So
I feel like we should do our own podcast.
I'm down. As long as you run it,
always,
edit it, and
no.
I just show up. I already got enough going on. But
I was about to say, I do. Yeah, maybe we'll talk afterward.
Yeah, man.
All right. So a couple more questions I want to get at. How do you keep your pipeline full today? Like, how are you filling it up? Like, who are you? I mean, Podmatch is obviously a source of potential people, but like, how are you really driving your lead funnel right now?
Yeah, I'm doing a really bad job. I'm open to advice. I create a lot of content. I hope some people will relate to this, and I'm open to advice. Create a lot of content. I put on networking events. I put out a lot of podcasts. I meet a lot of people. I make a lot of introductions. Those aren't always the quickest revenue drivers. It might seem crazy, but if I picked up a phone, went to the Better Business Bureau, looked for local BBB accredited businesses, and cold called them, Jay, I see you're part of the BBB. Congrats on an A+ and 15-year history. I'm a local as well. I'd love to blah, blah, blah. If I just cold call people, I would make more money quicker. But I like creating the content. I like the networking. I've been traveling like crazy, and it's a great problem to have, but I haven't had as full of a pipeline because I've been on vacation. So do I not go on vacation and have a full pipeline? Or do I have a full pipeline and then I don't have time to travel and do fun stuff? So I'm in this weird state where I'm loving my business, but I'm moderately plateaued. I gained a ton of momentum and now I'm kind of chilling out. So I'm open to feedback. It's a good problem to have. But yeah, man, I just like to give value and then it comes back around. But that is not the quickest growth strategy. It's a fun one. But hey, man, I'm always open to feedback.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, though. There's a balance, and it's different at different times. And I get down on myself because, like, sometimes you're very motivated to grow, and then sometimes you're very motivated to kind of do that self-care where you're like, I've worked really hard and I need to relax and I need to go on vacation and I need to travel and see things and do all this stuff. So I think it's, I just think it's natural, man. I think there's like peaks and valleys and I think there's plateaus and I think there's growth spots. And it's just like, if you're enjoying it, then you're doing the right thing. I don't know. It's either that or go work for some 9-to-5 company and do your shitty 9-to-5 hours and then come home and then like have that time off and take your 2 weeks a year. And then it's like, what do you do, right? So I don't know, man. I'm proud of the growth that you had. I'm glad you've
Thank
got to
you.
go off and take vacations and do that's good. Those are good things. So
And what a full pipeline, and we would have to spend a lot of time getting kind of nuanced, but if your pipeline's full with brand new people that don't know who you are, your conversion's not going to be good and there might be a higher churn rate. I have a full pipeline of mutual connections that aren't spending money on me, but I'm still nurturing that relationship. So it's kind of different. They're not leads, but if I nurture that relationship, if I create content, if I add value, when someone needs something, I'm their guy. So it's a
well, a lot of
little
business is
more
about
detached from
timing,
outcome. Yeah, it is about timing is huge.
luck and timing.
Lots
People
of
want to
luck.
discount those. People want to discount those things as part of being successful, but like luck and timing, I think, are huge.
Don't
All
you
right.
think we kind of make our own luck, though? I know I'm on a tangent, but don't you think we kind of make our own
No,
luck?
I I think, and the old quote is very true that like chance favors the prepared, right? So a little bit of both. I think if you are, yes, you can make your own luck, but you can also watch luck shoot by your head because you're not focused enough to pick it up. So I think there's some of both. I think sometimes you can try everything and nothing works because of 50 million reasons that have nothing to do with you. And I think that sometimes you can get really big deals and not be doing the right thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I think you can create opportunities for yourself. Absolutely. And be in the position that if luck comes around, you're ready for it. But yeah, I think it's somewhere in between. I think I definitely believe in, being successful because of luck. But anyway, this was fantastic. I want to have you on again someday, and hopefully we remain friends, and hopefully people gain some good things from this show. I have one more question for you, non-business related.
Mm.
If you knew you could do anything on earth and you knew you couldn't fail, what would it be?
Wow. Anything on earth, and I knew I couldn't fail. I want to say fly through the sky, but truly, I think I want to be like an NBA, like
I
LeBron
knew you were going to
James.
say it. I
Well,
knew you were going to say NBA.
and if we were to get raw and authentic, I think I have some trauma because I was obsessed with basketball and I was the shortest kid in school and I had a jersey every day of the week, but I got pushed around and bullied. And I think part of me is still very scarred. And if I could just dunk on all those guys, just dunk on all of them, I think it would be very satisfying, you know?
I love that. You could be like the white Muggsy Bogues.
Let's go.
Let's break out the old Hornets starter jacket
He's
that
like
I had when I
5'3".
was.
I've got like
He
4 to
was.
5
Oh
inches
yeah,
on him. Yeah.
You would tower over Muggsy Bogues. He was a little fella. All right, Ben. This was fantastic. If people want to find you, if they want to find more about Balbert or Real Business Connections, what is the way to reach you?
Yeah, so I really want to start with the fact that I would not be here without Jay. You might be a subscriber already, but if not, click subscribe here. You might have
what a
already
nice
left a
guy.
5-star review, but if you hadn't, you can click 5. If you want bonus points, you just write him a quick little short review. You can find me where you found this. Do the first part first, show Jay some love, but just type in Real Business Connections or Google it wherever you found this, and pretty high probability I'll come up. If not, someone needs to tell me I'm doing something wrong. So just type in Real Business Connections and you'll find me.
All right. What a legend. Ben, you're fantastic, my friend. Go Birds. I go Broncos. They can be my AFC team. I don't mind that.
Okay.
All right. Be good, brother. It was great talking to you, and have a good rest of your week. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Ben.
You too, bud.
See you, man.